YouTubers, welcome back to AZ2 Ozarks. In our last video, we were sharing with you that we now have a track loader, or it kind of looks like a bulldozer. And we got that piece of equipment with the intention of clearing some forest out in order to increase our pasture space for regenerative farming for our lifetime grazed cattle. So today we are going to begin the first step in that process, and that is marking trees. So we don't want to clear out all of the trees in the forest. We want to strategically leave some trees for wildlife, for maintaining the structure of the soil, as well as shade for the cattle. So we have our friend Dave Pendergrass with us here today, and he is going to help us with this process because we're not terribly familiar with how to do this, but he has experience in forestry management. So let's go ahead and talk to him. Hi Dave, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is David Pendergrass. I'm the Executive Director and Lead Scientist of Sweetwater Research, a 501c3 water ecology ministry to the widow, the orphan, and the poor around the world. But we also take care of the people in our own backyard. And as a water ecologist, I'm not only looking at the water that's flowing at the bottom of the land, but also on the land itself, because what is in the water will be reflecting whatever is done on the land above it. And so over the last year, since we moved back into my home state of Missouri here in West Plains, I've gotten to know the Mooneyhams, and they invited me to take a look at their land to see if we could do something to open up some pasture, some forested pasture for their cattle, and also to take care of some good hunting grounds here. And so I'm going to be putting together a whole lot of thoughts as an ecologist, which means you look at all of the factors that make the land and the water what it is, where it is, when it is. So as we go through today, we'll be sort of conversationally working out what's the best tree here and there, and why would we leave one tree over another. So I hope that's a good introduction for you.
Excellent, thank you.
It also can be more easily sort of blown over by wind and things. So it's great for general forest structure, general forest ecology, but if you're talking about opening up a forested pasture where you've got just a few large, well-established trees to provide a little bit of shade and some structure, I'd say leave your oaks and not worry so much about the cherry upland here. Maybe farther down land, we might leave a few cherries here and there just to provide some diversity.
Okay. Pulling all the vines out too, it's probably basically anything that was wrapped in vines like this, I was just pushing over. If it looked like it was dying from it. That one doesn't look too bad.
Yeah, it doesn't take much to rescue a tree from the vinage, but it also means you have to take the time to actually stuff out. Deer, by the way, they love to munch. You may know this already, but they love to munch grapes. So anytime you have a chance with a machete or something to just chop off a grapevine and let it sprout a little bit, deer are like that. And it'll protect the trees from just getting tangled foot diameter vines.
Yep.
When we're cutting, when we're bulldozing some things, if we can leave a nice mix of both young and mature trees so that we aren't simply breaking everything down to just one generation,
right,
but leaving some multiple generations of trees to be here. So you might leave some trees that are already, 80, 100 years old, just to provide some forest structure again for the wildlife, and then those, you'll have to take them down or they'll die on their own, 100 years from now.
Take themselves down.
Right. Anyway, just keep that in mind too, that what we're going to be flagging would be not only small ones and not only big ones. I don't imagine you have much love for the cedars.
I was knocking them over, they go over easy.
Yeah.
No root structure really.
Well, and we're planting an orchard, and they say to keep the cedars as far away from the orchard as possible. They have that fungus in them that can infect the fruit trees.
Right. And honestly, I don't think you're going to have any trouble recruiting more cedar if ever the time is come. But things make their way in.
See, like these two here.
Yeah.
They're clearly too close together.
So, yeah, it's a nice black oak on the right. Maybe I'll take out that kind of stunted white oak on the left. That one's, it's struggling.
Yep.
Yeah, and that already has kind of a nice structure. It's happy here. This is some of these post oaks over here in this little grove of post oaks they're starting to look stunted. Part of that's the soil. This isn't the greatest spot for them. Part of it is that they're getting shaded. Part of it is that they're just too dense. So definitely thin these out and just maybe leave one or two of the best post oaks kind of a good distance from the black. And I'll probably take out these hickory. They're not, if you're going to leave this oak here, this black, then it's not worth keeping those hickory.
So when there's these, where they're coming up in pairs, basically twins, what I call twins, with a V at the bottom, is it feasible to take the larger one, cut the other one off, and just leave it to leave the larger one, or is it better just to cut it out and leave one that's single?
I think that all depends on what else is around it and how much you got to keep that tree there. I would say if you've got other trees around it that aren't double, that aren't forked at the bottom, if you've got other options, then just take out the forked one. Leave the better one. If that's the only really decent tree of that species there and you want to leave it, yes, you can cut off one fork, but you do open up the tree to some potentially dangerous diseases and things, unless you're really going to give it a lot of attention. So,
I'm going to ignore it.
It's a calculated risk. Yeah.
Which one are you looking at here?
I'm looking at how we would thin out this section here. So we have this cherry here. We have, I think this is a red oak. This is a black oak. And then we have some big, a mature post oak over here, a hickory there, a bunch of smaller hickories. We can certainly take out the smaller hickories here. They're not doing anything for what you're trying to accomplish on this part of the land. We'll come back to it. So probably what we should do is get down to the edge, right, and just look up. But as we're going and talking this out, it gives us some context to what we will be doing.
What is this cherry tree that's dying? Or?
It's got a nasty fungus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Certainly take that one out. This one is all bent out of shape, and you can see really. So look at the quality of the oaks through here. Of a lot of the trees.
They're pretty sad.
They're sad. They're mangled, stunted.
That's like this
hurting.
Got some problems.
Yeah, nothing's really thriving through here. You might look around for some trees that could do okay down here and kind of hold some soil in place. This is the case where you just sort of leave the best of what's here, almost regardless of species. It's just, if it looks like it's thriving down here, let it thrive, take everything else out. And, if this is mostly going to be pasture anyway, let it be pasture.
Yeah, it's all, there's a slope off into that. There is a couple big white oaks back there. And there's another decent one there. But I don't know if the fungus is what's killing all these. You see the fungus all throughout here. I don't know if it's fungus or just the soil.
Well, both. It's not,
it doesn't have to be just one.
If they're not, if they're not thriving nutritionally, if they're not thriving, the sunlight they're getting or the soil structure, then they're going to be more open to various diseases. And I mean, I cannot name these fungi.
Right.
That's definitely beyond my knowledge.
Sasha, come. Sasha, come. Come.
The fence line's right over there.
Come on. Let's go.
Lightning fast.
Oh, yeah.
Don't blink, you might miss her. You good girl, Sasha.
Was that some good water?
It seems like there's more cedars down here. They seem to be doing better.
Yeah, they're opportunistic. They can handle disturbed land.
So I was feeling this used to be a pasture of some sort. Because the trees were all really small. What's left, basically. Right. But there was a lot of grass in here too, in between all the thorn bushes. And so I don't know if they just clear cut it at one point and then stopped taking care of it, and the trees grew back, and because it was fairly smooth and there was some grass.
Yeah.
So you can see this is the first area that Rick started clearing out with the bulldozer, because it was pretty thin as far as trees go. And as he just said, he believes it used to be pasture, or at least have been clear cut at some point. So he came through here and pushed this open. This is a very low area, so it's quite muddy. And this is where Dave wants to start with marking the trees and then working our way kind of uphill. This is the fence line here of our neighboring property.
They go
up bedding there and eating here, you think?
No, I don't know. I don't know where they're... I think they're bedding over there, because we'll see them real early in the morning in this. And it's usually about 7 or 8 o'clock that they're come across our driveway when the alarm goes off.
Right.
Sometimes earlier, sometimes like 6.
Yeah, even as early as 5, they'll come through. Mm-hmm. We're assuming that's what's coming through. It has to be something big enough to trigger the alarm.
But they move across our pasture area and then move up our tree line and then back into the big forest in the back corner.
Okay.
And then that's where all the big trees are, is back there.
Okay. All right.
And we found lots of bedding areas.
Right.
There's big ravines back in there for them to hide in the brush and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So what do deer look for as far as like areas where they'll raise their young, or what would draw them to stay on the property?
Well, bedding and food, obviously. So, you know, what does that look like for a deer? And I want to be real careful I don't speak beyond my knowledge on this, especially because there's going to be a lot of deer hunters, or you're in southern Missouri, you're going to laugh at me if I say something stupid. They need some brush for their bedding, obviously. So you need some well-developed underbrush, some stuff that's a little thick here and there. Need to leave some wild. Don't
everything not
it.
Perfectly maintained.
Not everything perfectly maintained.
Okay.
So I need to leave a little bit of wild here and there. Nature needs both. Right. Part of being good stewards of the land is leaving a little bit of wild where you need it, and then also cultivating a little bit of it. Obviously, for feeding, deer are going to be hanging around the margins, aren't they? Mm-hmm. You know, right at the edges where they can run into some shelter when they need it. And so creating a lot of linear feet of sort of perimeter of forest and pasture. So, you know, maybe creating a bit of wild, wavy lines in your pasture to forest transition. I think that would be helpful. For food, of course, they love their acorns. They love their wild blueberries around here. They like their grape sprouts and such.
Okay.
So leaving a bit of browse in the understory is good. If we're talking about forested pasture, it's mostly grass. I mean, they're just not going to be feeding much sort of out in the open there. So we'll worry more about that, I think, when we get more into the transition of where you're leaving forest and where you're opening it up. That's where it gets into leaving a much more diverse understory. Yeah.
Awesome. Lots and lots of deer tracks through here.
Well, wondering, do we want to continue touring a little bit to get the full context?
Probably.
And then start tagging? I mean, otherwise we can just, you know, leap right into this section, start tagging it, but I just want to be careful we're not tagging too quick. Like we know the full breadth of what kind of biodiversity.
Well, we can walk the whole perimeter down to the other fence.
Okay.
And back up and across. But where I want to clear for the pasture, basically,
Mm-hmm.
we'll leave like this, you know, trees this far apart or whatever. Is this kind of what you think up there is going to be like too, that far apart or closer? I mean, the selection down here wasn't all that good.
Right.
The variety wasn't all that good.
If we thinned this any further, I might just take out one or two.
Okay.
Honestly, like maybe this one here, just because it's kind of misshapen or something.
It didn't used to look like that until I almost pushed it over with another tree.
Oh. Yeah, I think you got some time to leave these be, see what they do, see how the crowns start to spread, see how they're handling the disturbance around here,
Right.
and let them be for now. Let them hold some soil, especially if this is a wash through here. Let it hold some soil, and then as it starts to grow back and recover from the disturbance, you'll have a better idea what to maybe cull out.
What's going to live?
Yeah, and by that time it'll be a lot easier to cull one out. I mean, if all you got to do is take a chainsaw and take one out, easy enough. That's great. So there's a lot of sycamore down here, by the way.
Yep.
And that'll do well here. I mean, it's here because it likes it here. It's not just a stray. So leave some of those, and that'll really help hold the soil down here. It'll help the wash. It'll keep things well structured in your soil.
And the sycamore are these with the kind of silvery bark?
Yeah. The older they get, first they kind of shed higher up.
Okay.
That's telltale. And the younger they are, it's a little harder to identify them, but there's, one right there. During the wintertime, seems like for the aesthetics of it, they really stand out with like this shining white against an otherwise kind of gray background. So, yeah, I like sycamores when I can leave them in the landscape.
There, I'd like to clean out some of the brush stuff in here somewhat, but it's not necessary.
That's just more aesthetic.
Yeah.
And also so we can get to that fence line there and maintain it. That whole fence is a disaster up there.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the other things that comes in when you're managing land. You can't only be thinking about like the animals or something, but also just for utilitarian purposes. If you got to get the fence, you got to get the fence.
That's what usually you have a fence road, or row, whatever, where it's open, and we don't even have that. So if we want to fix this fence, we got to go to the neighbors, drive along there and fix it from that side, or hike in. Right. Which during tick season is not real fun.
There's some really beautiful trees in this mix. Just taking one or two here and there and opening it up, and then leaving some of these understory oaks to give them some time, so that when these larger ones finally pick up, that these will be ready to take over.
Someone came through and cut these a long time ago. There's a few of them like that. Big old stumps. And with the number of these small ones coming up, just makes you wonder what their plan was previously. But that plan was a long time ago. We know that the previous owners owned this property for a little over 30 years, and I don't believe that they did anything the entire time that they were on the property.
This is a case where even though it doesn't serve a lot of purpose for you in terms of economics, it does serve a good purpose indirectly towards your economics because it's holding this in a good place. It's helping so that this wash isn't constantly meandering like far off onto the parts of the land.
This is just the hillside wash. The actual wash is out there another 20 feet.
Yeah. This will hold it in place though. What it's going to hold here, right? So for identification on that black gum, by the way, if you look at the twigs, you see how at the top they have a little bit of just a slight curl on the wisps of the twigs. That's a black gum feature.
What is the tree called?
Black gum.
Black gum. Okay.
I think, again, it's the case where you take the tree that looks most healthy.
Knock the rest down. because that's a light oak, isn't it?
Yeah, that looks surprisingly well.
Right.
Honestly.
And it's right in the middle of the wash, basically.
But it does look decent. It's not terribly bind up. And obviously the trees around it, like that hackberry, the all blistered up looking thing, that's a hackberry. They do well in lowland, but that doesn't look very nice.
No.
And the wood is crap. I mean, there's nothing going there with a hackberry. So, in fact, during ice storms and things, there'd be like the first things that are just dropping branches and shedding and stuff. So there's a hickory.
Finally got a big one.
Oh, what's that?
Finally found a big one.
Yeah. That's a decent, sort of decent oak. It's not great.
Right.
I don't know, if you're really trying to open it up, I would say hold on to the hickory, take the oak out.
Well, this one's pretty shaded out, so it'd probably be all right if we opened it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, I mean, really, you can see the crown it's almost dominant at the top, right? It's almost the leader. Take out that oak and it'll really start to open up and give you a nice canopy. So that would be the one to keep.
You're gonna put a string on
Oh,
it?
you're gonna put our first ribbon on?
Ribbon tying.
Inaugural.
I can't feel my fingers anymore. So. We're gonna hold your Mickeys over here.
So my wife, who grew up in Minnesota, she would go outside as a girl and just play till her toes went numb, and then it wouldn't hurt anymore.
Right.
Well, later on, she learned as an adult that can cause chilblains, and so now if her feet get even a little bit chilly,
Turn all white.
they hurt. Well, red in her case, they hurt. It looks like frostbite.
Yep.
It feels like frostbite, but she's not frostbiting. It feels like it.
Feel like we need a ceremony or something here.
Break this bottle on it.
No, no broken glass. Ta-da!
Look at that.
The first saved tree.
There it is. Bless you, my child.
Yep. Live in peace.
Grow and be strong.
Well, I feel like our work is done here today.
Yeah, I got red oak on that too.
Is it?
Yeah.
It's got some strange bands on it, like something was tied on it, or?
I don't think that's from time. I think that's just some natural bark formation. So the red oaks, like scarlet oak especially, you'll see this. You get like a ski ramp effect on the bark. Some kind of smooth, long strips, and it's the natural carbs in the bark. Yeah. And Keegan, I'm curious, did you call this one an elm?
I thought that was a pecan.
This one?
Yeah.
I don't think so, but I'm willing to be proved wrong. And I'm asking you because I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
I'm not asking you as a test. I'm asking because I don't know. But
So you think those two are both elms?
I think it could be. Yeah.
Because they prefer to be on the lowland type of area?
Yeah, they're more lowland.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to get essentially 60-foot circumferential view. If I leave that one, what else am I going to take out in order to leave that one? Is there a better one to leave? Like this younger hickory here is not as big, but it presents, again, some more structure where maybe we're leaving some larger trees, some smaller trees. We already kept a kind of smaller hickory back there, so maybe we don't need to keep that small hickory. We can, in fact, keep this bigger one. But in that case, we're going to take out a whole lot of other things, including this one. Maybe these. I do like the idea of keeping this one for now.
I really like maples, but
Well,
I don't know that we have many, and I haven't seen like the red leaves.
that's where, if I have an opportunity to leave something that there's not a lot of in a forest, I like to leave it just for the biodiversity aspect. I'm not sure it serves much purpose for a forested pasture like you're looking for, but it does serve a purpose for beauty. It serves a purpose for biodiversity, providing who knows what kind of habitat for some nice birds. You can see some peckers have already been in there, some sapsuckers. There.
Okay.
So I'm inclined to keep it. Well, you can always decide to take it down later if it's just not fitting the structure of what you want to accomplish around here. But this is more for, say, the general ecological health of the land, more than it is for the pasture.
And you'd leave that twin on it?
Yeah, I mean, maples are going to get leggy like that. That's what they do. It's structure-wise, it's not necessarily a beautiful tree. The colors, the leafing, I mean, that's certainly pretty. And I suppose if ever you wanted to convert this area, and this would be a generation from now, but to convert it into something where you were actually harvesting some maple for syrup and that kind of thing. Or if you just want some maple wood, you'd have it here. Bargain and free.
If it were warmer, we could be grounding with our shoes off. You're not a fan, huh?
Hippies, man.
Grounding?
Yeah. So that's where you walk around with your feet in contact with the soil. It's supposed to be like all the energy you get from the earth, and I'm not an expert.
I've heard of that before.
You haven't? Okay.
No.
It was really big back in Arizona.
That's interesting.
But it is kind of more of a hippie thing, yeah.
So here's my philosophy on this. So as a Christian, I believe that God made this, and there's all kinds of connections that we may never discover that he perfectly intended for our health. And so if that includes by walking with physical contact with the earth, that he intends to bless us through that, then go for it. It doesn't have to be some sort of worshiping the earth god thing. It doesn't have to be a spiritual encounter with nature. It's a spiritual encounter with God, but he's feeding us physically and spiritually and emotionally by being in contact with the earth he made. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
So if something works, I don't have to poo-poo it.
There you go.
What is that? There's a bunch of these trees out here that are like that.
Have these strange growths.
Yeah. I don't know if it's like another tree.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think what it is some sort of fungus or parasite that prompts weird growth, just like a cancer in a person will prompt your cells to go gangbusters. You know, that's how you get your tumors. Cells are simply going out of control. There's a lot of trash through here, isn't it?
Yep.
Nothing.
That's why I wasn't going to hurt my feelings to clear this all out, you know?
Yeah, and thorns.
Yes.
Lots of thorns.
Feel free to clip any of those that you want to take with you.
I should probably take this out of my back pocket.
And so this is our existing pasture over here. Part of it, anyhow.
I want to be dirt.
A couple of oaks in here worth leaving. That one has a nice structure. Looks pretty healthy. And since we've already collected a few hackberries over here, I'd be leaving an oak like that not the most beautiful oak you're going to see, but it's probably one of the more beautiful oaks here. Yeah. Otherwise, well, okay. So if we didn't keep this, we would definitely keep that hickory. Thank you. That's up there. It's got some nice development. Looks healthy enough.
Leave them both, and then whichever one does better. Because I think we strip that sucker out of the bottom there, it might kill that guy.
Right. You have some general timelines for when you can realistically get this cleaned out, or just like a year-long project? What are you thinking?
I hope it didn't take that long, but I think we can get to the fence here probably in 2-3 weeks total.
Okay. All right. Black cherry, the biodiversity, we're not leaving too many so far. Here's one that's in a lowland area where it might do all right. It's kind of funky shape, but you know what? You usually get that for cherries anyway.
I haven't seen one that's real straight anyway.
Right. You just leave that one. You know, around it, there's not much. Maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to tag it just to keep it for now. We'll pick it out later.
There's a huge one back there.
Oh,
Just straight back.
Yeah. And sometimes you'll see black oaks that have hybridized with the blackjacks. And so you're looking at it and you're thinking, am I looking at a black oak? Am I looking at a blackjack? If you see this kind of marshmallow bark, but otherwise up top it looks kind of more black oakish, then generally you're looking at a hybrid, you know. And obviously this a bunch of dead branches at all kind of eye level, so it's such a hassle when walking through the forest. When you're trying to take them too, like when I'm thinning out a forest. I'll be cutting down here. I'm just constantly banging my head against stuff, or you know, branches will fall on me because they're just shedding as I'm cutting it. And real helpful. Pull down what's coming to the canopy, and then by the time it gets to the ground, you're slowing down its percolation by having plenty of leaf litter, some grasses, tall grasses even. You know, leave some spots where the grass gets high. And so you're slowing down the water cycle so that it has time to move through the environment, get where it needs to get, and then that also means that you're holding more water here, so it's not going up into the sky, because when the sky holds a whole lot of water, it also tends to hold a lot of heat, and a lot of heat and water at one time makes bigger, badder storms. So in general, you're helping the global environment as well as helping your local land environment by simply slowing water down. So this may not serve to hold water in some sort of long-term pond setting.
Or at all.
It's creating some topography. It's making more heterogeneous topography that will help slow down some of the water movement on your land.
It holds snow.
Yeah. Hey. I mean, honestly, I'm not even kidding, like microenvironments, right? Yeah. That kind of stuff. If there's no other place around here where you're getting some ice and snow that lingers just a little bit longer, maybe some animals will take advantage of that. Even smaller things that we're not really conscious of. So, I guess we kind of pulled uphill a bit here. So as we're going through here, looking down from here, where does the pasture end? If we're going to kind of weave a little bit, you know, some semi-straight lines.
We'll just, like from here down, we can take trees.
Yeah.
And then I'll put the fence further down from probably the edge of where the trees will move, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do we want to continue on our way back at this point? I mean, just
we're just about to where I cleared already.
Okay.
All right, we've gotten a little bit of a start today. The sun is getting close to setting. We've marked our first few trees, and Dave got a pretty good idea of where our boundaries are and what we want to do. He's going to come back tomorrow and work with Rick some more. Not sure we're going to get any more footage of that just because I will be at the farmer's market tomorrow, but we'll definitely come back through and get a picture or get some video of what they do tomorrow before the bulldozing starts. The guys have been working in this area over here, clearing out some of the trees, and you can see there's still a few more that do not have ties around them that need to be removed. We haven't had rain, so the ground is really dry now. First it was too muddy, now it's too dry, and so it makes it harder to push them, but we're going to try and push one out. And what we've been doing is putting the pieces that we don't use for firewood into a pile and burning them, as well as the stumps to clear it up. And you can see that very quickly the grass already starts to come up and grow even after it's been disturbed. So we're going to start up the bulldozer and see if we can get it to knock over a tree. I think it's gonna get the best of her. Get it, Sash. This area has quite a bit of brush, underbrush, and some felled trees already. Rick's gonna come in here and push this area out, and then I think he's gonna go for the cedar tree there. So one of the things we're hoping to do in the spring is plant our orchard, and cedars can be very harmful to apple trees. So they carry a fungus that affects the apple trees. So we definitely want to get rid of the cedars anyhow, especially near the orchard area. They are an invasive species, and so we'll be taking a lot of those out anyhow. Let's go take a peek at what he did over here. That pushed over really nicely. You can see that this piece of equipment is very valuable as far as this kind of work goes. And you can see how it just used its weight to push right over on that tree. So it pulled up most of the root ball, it looks like.
The root balls are taller than me.
Yeah, look at that. Whew, that's a big one. And let's look out here at the size of this tree. That was a pretty good size. How tall do you think that tree was?
40 foot.
Okay, maybe a 40-foot cedar. So as you can see, this is time-consuming work. It's not fast, but it is valuable work. And over time, we are hoping to clear our forested pasture. So it will be about like this area where there's trees every so often, so that it's beneficial to wildlife and retaining the soil so we don't have erosion and runoff, as well as the cattle having shade, and grass will still grow through it, as opposed to having totally cleared areas. Well, we still have the trees over here, but in the pasture area, some of it is just completely clean cut, and that's just not really good for the overall well-being of the property. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give us a thumbs up and subscribe to keep following our adventure.